The United Cup is heating up right now after an action-packed day 4 saw Iga Swiatek being put to the test, while Hubert Hurkacz and Sakkari made early campaigns for Comeback Player of the Year. I'll discuss those matches and dissect the difficult day for the U.S. women, including Coco Gauff and Venus Williams biting the dust. G'day mate, my name is Christian Bassnight and welcome to Christian's Court, where I cover tennis from all angles. If you haven't yet already, make sure you subscribe and click that notification bell so you are notified whenever I post more Aussie Open lead-up updates like this. So Coco Gauff, for the first time since 2022, she lost a singles match before the Australian Open, at least in the Aussie Open lead-up swing. She fell to Jessica Bouzas Maniero 6-1, 6-7, 6-love during her tie against Spain. Gauff really looked routed from the start. She was close to really getting bageled in the opening set. Bouzas Maniero had 4 set points at 5-love, but she did let Coco off the hook with some double faults and poor errors. I think Gauff's poor start in this match had to do with some of the backlash she faced from her pre-tournament press conference. She was asked if she felt that if there's a solid U.S. crowd contingent in Australia, and Coco replied with, "I'll be honest, no. I feel like we're definitely in the tennis department the worst when it comes to that. So I've always said I wish our country and other places would show up throughout the world, as we maybe see smaller countries support. But I also think it's just because our country is good in so many sports, so it's just hard. I definitely think there are Americans that come out more in Melbourne than necessarily here, but I would like to see some more Americans if we make it to Sydney. In Sydney than there were last year." Now, a lot of people understood where Coco was coming from, but she did receive at least a little bit of pushback. Some people called her tone deaf. They said the economy is too poor for all that, and people and Americans are struggling. And then there were a few people who mentioned the U.S. recently launching airstrikes on Venezuela. Less than an hour before her match, though, Gauff took to Twitter to respond to the backlash, which she said was dragged out of context. She said, "Trust me, I understand the financial aspects of things, and no, tennis is not accessible for everyone. It was more of a comment for those who are already attending, and how I wish they were as passionate as those from other countries, more specifically team events. People don't owe me anything. I was just honestly answering a question I was asked, and it was simply an observation I noticed about other countries versus mine. That's all. Nevertheless, I'm grateful for any support, no matter how big or small it is." I know some people disagree, but I think this was definitely on her mind coming into this match, at least at the start of the match. It was a pretty lengthy statement, so clearly Coco cared about it enough to even tweet, and she tweeted again so soon to the match, and I think that was a big mistake. Players, especially younger players, need to be more mindful of not being on social media as much, especially so close to the match. I understand that Coco enjoys it, but still in this day and age where people are more passionate about things than ever, it's just best to log off a little bit, at least until when you have more downtime. Gauff didn't directly say whether or not it affected her in her post-match press conference, but she said there are worse things in the world to be worried about. And Taylor Fritz also chimed in saying, "I know exactly what she meant. She said nothing wrong, but people always just want to assume the absolute worst out of everything." And no notes, I fully agree with Taylor. I do think the U.S. fans, though, in Perth took Coco's comments personally, because they were very, very supportive, in my opinion, in this tie against Spain with the flags and all the signs. But putting that whole drama aside and focusing on the actual tennis, I think a lot of Gauff struggles were also rooted in that serve of hers. Coco struggled with her ball toss due to the sun, and Jessica did as well. But Gauff, she made an adjustment of tossing it a little bit further behind her head, more to the left of her body. This match compared to on average in United Cup last year, which made a pretty big negative difference. She served 14 double faults to just 1 ace. And it's understandable because last year a lot of those matches that Coco played in United Cup were at night, and this was her first match of this United Cup in the bright early hours of the day. Those serve issues, I think, likely translated to other aspects of Gauff's game, and she was pretty error prone throughout the match, finishing with 54 unforced errors to just 10 winners. And Bouzas Maniero was a bit cleaner. She hit 14 winners to 41 unforced errors. Coco was pretty poor on both the forehand and backhand, really, and she also struggled a lot on her return. I do have to give credit to Jessica for having a great service strategy of serving a lot of those slice serves on the deuce side wide to the weaker Gauff forehand, and that weaker Gauff forehand offered up either an error or weaker replies with her being so far out of position. The first hour or so of watching this match, I was just really utterly shocked. Jessica led 6-1, 4-1, but Coco, she's a fighter, and she started finding more rhythm on her serve, and her ground game started to click a little bit more. And I thought after she took the second set in the tiebreaker that she would for sure take the third set, but Jessica, she rebounded after leaving the court for about 6-7 minutes, and she dished out the bagel in a third set that was a little bit more of a repeat of what we saw in the first set. Again, Jessica played well. I think she had a good strategy, even aside from her serve, but her ground game was overall solid. She attacked when she needed to, and she also mixed things up with the drop shots. And Jessica also had a lot of success with the passing shots too. She got the ball low on Gauff at times and left Gauff kind of like out of position and vulnerable at the net. Nonetheless, I again am very shocked that Coco even lost this match. She played so well in her first match against Elina Svitolina, double breaststicking her. Plus, Elina Svitolina just beat Jessica Bouzas Maniero too, or she beat her in the first day of United Cup play. I think the sun played a considerable role, but this is definitely going to be a match that Coco is going to want to put behind her. This loss honestly isn't a great look for Coco and her Aussie Open title prospects, and she could get demoted to the number 4 seed depending on how she does and how Amanda Anisimova does in Brisbane. And Amanda, she already passed her in the rankings for this week, rising to a career high of number 3 herself. So congrats to Anisimova on that new career high. But you could say that it's a positive thing that Coco got this ugly match out her system already and isn't coming into Melbourne with such high expectations. Although, again, that being said, Gauff is a big confidence player. And when you think back to the 2 slams she won, US Open 2023 and Roland Garros 2025, she had a lot of match wins leading into those tournaments. So, I don't know. On the bright side, Coco still has time to get things fixed, as Team USA did qualify for the quarterfinals thanks to Taylor Fritz, first of all, being clutch in his 7-6, 3-6, 7-6 win over Jaume Munar. That lasted 3 hours and 12 minutes, and it's the match of the year, at least thus far, for 2026. It was a real mental and physical test for Taylor, who dealt with both a knee issue and blisters on his right foot. And Munar not only frustrated him with his incredible defense and court coverage, but the Spaniard outserved the American for much of the match. And Taylor didn't have a breakpoint look until 6-5 in the third set, where he had 2 match points. Speaking of match points, Taylor had to save a match point himself in the breaker, but again, he just made that big push to the finish line. And Coco, she did redeem herself in the mixed doubles, as she and 15th ranked doubles player Christian Harrison once again teamed up and sealed the deal, winning 7-6, 6-love. Meanwhile, Czechia swept Norway 3-0, thanks to wins from Barbora Krejcikova and Jakub Mędzik. And Mędzik, he got a great win, defeating Kasper Ruud 7-5, 7-6. Team Poland also swept. They took down Team Germany without a loss. Hubert Hurkacz set the tone very well. I think he's the MVP for this tie, as he outclassed world number 3 Alexander Zverev 6-3, 6-4 in his very first match back from injury since June 2025. Hurkacz put on a masterful serving performance. He fired down 21 aces, and Zverev really just had no answer, and he was rattled badly. And the German apparently vented to his dad during one of the changeovers in Russian, saying he hasn't played for 2 effing years, and he's serving at 230 kilometers an hour. In the evening, when it's cold, it's effing crazy. The guy can barely effing walk, and he's serving. Again, yes, Hubie served phenomenally well in this match, but he also was very solid from the ground and hit with noticeably more RPMs than previously against the German. This match just shows Hurkacz's immense talent to be able to beat a top 3 player in straight sets after such a long layoff. And he's currently ranked 83rd in the world, but that's largely due to health issues. And he ended his 2025 season in the summertime of last year to undergo arthroscopic knee surgery. I definitely see Hurkacz making a big push in the ranks this year if he stays healthy. He was my comeback player of the year pick in my ATP overall predictions video, and this is definitely making me look good for that pick for now. Now, Iga Swiatek, she was made to work hard in her debut 2026 match. She defeated Eva Lys 3-6, 6-3, 6-4. That was, I feel, the match of the year thus far on the women's side. And it was surprising that Swiatek was tested this much, because she and Lys played twice last year, and Eva only won 7 games total in those 2 matches from 2025. Not to mention, Lys's right leg was strapped up like a mummy, so I was not expecting the battle that we got, but I definitely enjoyed it because Lys played out of her mind. Some of those on-the-run shots she hit were just shockingly good. She for sure treed, and she did have the match on her racket. She led by a set and a break at 3-1, and she had another break point to go up 4-2 in the second set. But Lys just does not have that big or even just a strong serve to really help her win free or easy points. And Iga had good looks at breaking in pretty much all of her return games. Swiatek also did a great job at cutting down on her unforced errors, and I think her experience ultimately carried her through to the finish line in the end. Definitely not Iga's best match, but I think she'll for sure be happy she got the win because things looked pretty grim at times. And I think it's going to be a confidence-building result for Lys, even though she did lose. Just her pushing the world number 2 that hard, that's got to do wonders for her. Now, Greece joined Team USA in clinching their spot in the quarterfinals with a win over Great Britain. Stefanos Tsitsipas started off with a tight 7-6 third set win over Billy Harris, but Maria Sakkari was the real MVP to me. She played a phenomenal match against Emma Raducanu. She defeated the 23-year-old 6-3, 3-6, 6-1. Sakkari had never beaten Raducanu before in their 4 previous matches, let alone win a set against the Brit. But I knew that she would have a much stronger shot this time around because Raducanu had some health concerns with her foot issue, forcing her to miss her opening tie against Japan. I don't want to take anything away from Sakkari though. She played a great match. She looked like a completely different player. Really, she's been looking like a completely different player all week in Perth. She's been serving stronger. Her return is much more effective, and she's also been more aggressive from both wings. And Emma, she played a great match too, at least for the first 2 sets before she ultimately ran out of gas. Hopefully she'll be healthy enough to make a decent push at the year's first major. But focusing back on Sakkari, again, very promising start to her season, beating 2 slam champions, although maybe they weren't at their best physically. Still though, she played great tennis. And the question for me is, can she maintain this form throughout most of the year? Sakkari, she tends to do well at the United Cup. She has an 8-3 record now in singles. Will she be able to translate this form at the slams? That's where she notoriously struggles, as Sakkari has not made a slam second week going on 4 years now. So, I mean, she's still going to be a pretty dangerous floater in the draw at Melbourne this year. I think no seed is going to want to see her in the first 2 rounds. So hopefully she can keep up this form for, again, Melbourne. Now, even though Team USA already punched their ticket into the knockout stages at the United Cup, it was a pretty brutal day for the American woman in Auckland and Brisbane. Eva Jovic was the only American woman to win in either singles or women's doubles. After getting by Gabriela Knutson 4-6, 6-1, 6-love, the 18-year-old teamed up with Alex Ayala to take down Venus Williams and Elina Svitolina 7-6, 6-1. Venus and Elina had a combined age of 71 years old compared to Eva and Alex's 38 years old of combined age, but they still had no business losing this match, at least in straight sets. They had 8 set points in the first set, and Venus did let them down a little bit more on those set points, but I think she still carried overall. It's because Svitolina missed quite a few floater volleys. This was a pretty odd pairing for me, Venus-Svitolina, but looking at the field in Auckland, it was slim pickings, so I understand. A bit disappointed that On TV wasn't able to start her season off with a win, even if it was just doubles. But on the bright side, she and Elina had fun. Really, all 4 women had fun, and there's a bit of a funny moment around 3-all in the first set where Eva really wasn't looking or paying attention. She hit the ball to try to give the ball back to Venus and Elina after she held serve, and she accidentally hit Venus in the back. And her reaction was so funny because she was clearly so nervous. She did not want to hit Venus, and she felt so bad. So that was a pretty funny moment in that match. Now, Emma Navarro did not find things funny on Monday, as she was the biggest casualty of the day. The second seed fell to 72nd ranked Francesca Jones, 7-5, 2-6, 6-4. This was Jones's first ever match against a top 20 player. And I mean, she played well. I think she's going to be a player to watch out for in 2026, but it's just not looking good for Emma Navarro. I hate to say it because she's still pretty young, but I wouldn't be totally shocked if 2024 was her best peak season of her career. 8th seed Peyton Stearns, she bit the dust, falling to 19-year-old Spaniard Caitlin Quevedo 6-2, 7-5. Katie McNally fell to the 7th seed Xingyu Wang 7-5 in the third set. Qualifier Whitney Osigwe was beaten by fellow qualifier Sofia Costales, while Sloane Stephens, she now extends her losing streak to 13 in a row with a 7-5, 4-6, 6-2 loss to Renata Zarazua. Sloane had absolutely no business losing this match, really, and it could have been a straight sets win for her. And she started strong. She went out to a 5-2 double break lead in the opening set, and she had 2 set points in the first set. But I think the lack of confidence and overall match reps really hurt her. I really hope Sloane can have one final push. I do not want her career to end like this. She's way too talented of a player, but sometimes the mental can just be so hard to overcome. Just thinking back to Garbiñe Muguruza, she too finished her career with a pretty not great losing streak. In Brisbane, Haley Baptiste, An Lee, and Ashlyn Kruger all bit the dust. Thankfully, we are guaranteed at least one American woman win tonight in Brisbane, as Madison Keys will take on her compatriot McCartney Kessler. Meanwhile, defending Brisbane champ Aryna Sabalenka will follow as she takes on Kristina Buksha, while Elena Rybakina starts her campaign against Wei Zhang. In Auckland, Venus and Alicia Parks hope to join the winner's circle as they take on Magda Linette and Elisabetta Cocciaretto, respectively. Lastly, I want to briefly discuss Novak Djokovic announcing on Sunday that he will be stepping away from the Professional Tennis Players Association, or the PTPA, which he co-founded alongside former player Vajek Pospisil. Novak broke the news on social media, saying, "After careful consideration, I have decided to step away completely from the Professional Tennis Players Association. This decision comes after ongoing concerns regarding transparency, governance, and the way my voice and image have been represented. I am proud of the vision that Vajek and I shared when founding the PTPA, giving players a stronger independent voice. But it has become clear that my values and approach are no longer aligned with the current direction of the organization. I will continue to focus on my tennis, my family, and contributing to the sport in ways that reflect my principles and integrity. I wish the players and those involved the best as they move forward. But for me, this chapter is now closed." This is not surprising to me at all, and I think those concerns Novak mentioned regarding how his voice and image have been used in regard to the PTPA likely refers to the PTPA filing a class action lawsuit back in March of last year against the women's and men's tours and the International Tennis Federation, plus the Sports Doping or Integrity Agency, and they accused those organizations of systemic abuse, anti-competitive practices, and a blatant disregard for player welfare. The 4 Grand Slam tournament organizers were added in September as defendants, although the PTPA and Tennis Australia were said to have reached an undisclosed settlement last month. The lawsuit also argues players should have more access to revenue at the majors, and that the governing bodies cap the prize money tournaments award and limits players' ability to earn money off the court. Novak wasn't listed as a plaintiff when this suit was filed, and he said at the time that there are certain things he did not agree with and that he wanted other players to step up. Really, I think Novak is just tired of advocating. He tried to make a change, but I mean, he's almost on his way out, and he probably feels that it's up to other players who need to take action, and they just aren't doing that. And he's spoken about his frustrations of the top players not banding together to make change for a while now, but most recently, I think in Shanghai a few months ago, in regards to there being complaints about the 2-week-long or 12-day-long 1,000 tournaments. I think the PTPA, they also aim to become a union that negotiates collective bargaining agreements like those that exist in more traditional team sports, but that has not happened yet. So I feel like the PTPA overall has not made a whole lot of progress. The main thing is this lawsuit, which I don't know if much will come of that. I don't think the PTPA lawsuit was a good look for Novak. It was going against some pretty powerful entities within the sport, and Novak that's why he distanced himself from it a little bit. I think also maybe if he had more support from bigger names who were putting their name and stuff on the line, maybe he would have been more willing to do it. But the association, the PTPA, they also, I remember, made a pretty a shady statement about Jannik Sinner's ban and how they felt it was given on the basis of unfair treatment in favor of the Italian, and it was a cover for tailored deals. And people, even me, low-key, kind of took that statement as that was what Novak felt about it. So I think a lot of times whenever the PTPA does something, we think, oh, that's what Novak feels or that's what Novak wants to do, and that's really, I guess, clearly not the case, and that's why Djokovic is distancing himself from that organization. Ahmad Nassar, who is the executive director of the PTPA, made a statement suggesting that Novak's decision may have been derived from an effort to spread inaccurate and misleading narratives about the governance of the organization by other, I guess, entities. Bottom line, I think the PTPA is on a downward decline now that its biggest name in relation to it, Novak Djokovic, has distanced himself from it. The tours themselves have pretty much said the lawsuit is nonsense, and I don't think much will come of it. Now, on the topic of Novak, he actually recently announced that he will be withdrawing from next week's Adelaide International 250. He said that he's just not physically fit enough to compete as of now, so that raises some slight concerns and questions of his participation for the Australian Open. I ultimately do think he will play. Novak, he's just a lot more selective of what he chooses to play now. He didn't really play any matches leading into the US Open either, and he made the semifinals, so I'm not really that concerned about this decision to not play any lead-up matches. That's all I have for this video. Let me know your thoughts on everything I discussed, namely the Coco loss and whether it's a concerning result for her Aussie Open prospects, or if you think that she'll turn it around and have a strong push ultimately in Melbourne. Again, make sure you subscribe and click the notification bell so you are notified whenever I post more content around the Aussie swing soon. Thank you all so much for your support, and I will see you all next time here on Christian's Court.